Charles Leclerc, a Formula One driver having much more achievements in his sports career and currently racing for Scuderia Ferrari. In the previous races, he totally did not get the results which he wanted. He himself said that Ferrari should not repeat mistakes again. What are the mistakes that have to be improved according to Leclerc? And will the Ferrari team accept his point of view? If yes, what are the next steps the Ferrari team is going to have to take? If you are thinking the same, don't go anywhere. In today's video, we are going to talk about all of those concerns. Let's first talk about Charles Leclerc, an F1 driver who has won GP3 Series Championship in 2016 and FIA Formula One Championship in 2017, and hence, it is continued. Now, in the recent races, he is lacking to get positions, like in the Hungarian Grand Prix, he has 7th position and recently held Belgian Grand Prix. He assured 3rd position according to F1 standings. These ups and downs raised to a certain hot topic talk. Some considered that the Charles Leclerc point of view of improving Ferrari's strategies must be important to fill that gap. But on the other hand, according to Ralf Schumacher, Leclerc should have to be focused on his own actions as well. In the Hungarian Grand Prix, there are many heartbroken discussions from Ferrari drivers which you have to hear. Like, according to Charles Leclerc during his interview about the race, he said, "We were given a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane, which made the pit stop incredibly slow. So this weekend is challenging once more. Sincerely, I find driving today to be generally stressful since, in my opinion, even when a driver feels they are performing well with their vehicle, no one seems to notice. Additionally, everyone is aware of your mistakes whenever you make them, since it is challenging yet ultimately necessary for the game. Ferrari has historically been a good Formula One team, but over the past 15 years, Mercedes and Red Bull have utterly eclipsed them. Every season, we anticipate so much more from them, yet in the Hungarian Grand Prix, the team's endemic flaws are still holding them back. According to Charles Leclerc, there are certain changes which have to be adjusted to minimize the differences with Red Bull, McLaren, and Mercedes. Certain changes must be made by the Ferrari's team. They had a front wing that was specifically reprofiled for the track, but it had little effect on how they compared to Red Bull, McLaren, and Mercedes. They aren't upset with the issues because Leclerc lost the better part of the 10 seconds, which would have given him 2 extra places at the finish line. They look to have strategic issues as well as technical issues with their radios for the drivers, but all those issues are currently standard operating procedures for this Ferrari team. It sounds like the Ferrari team has ignored their standard operating procedures, but will the Ferrari team consider it? Because in an interview, Charles Leclerc said, "Move forward like the McLaren. There are numerous tasks to complete once more as we are currently on the defensive and it has been confirmed over the past 3 weekends. Honestly, I believe that today's outcome is worse than he thought it would be." He commented that the first run felt great. It makes sense that from his disappointment with Ferrari's team, it seems that behind, Lance Leclerc had to push a lot. Then they were with Carlos and we lost some time there, which brings us to Ferrari's strategy issues, which have been well documented in the past and seem to persist despite a change in management. But wait, what is the situation which brings disappointment for Leclerc? He said that they also have a lot of radio issues. He mentioned that because of issues with our audio for 3 or 4 races, 1 out of every 4 words is not understood by an engineer, thus we need to address it. Just think about that for a moment. There have been problems with Ferrari's radios for 3 to 4 racing events, suggesting that they are unable to communicate with one another. We can comprehend the racing broadcast on the pier wall and appear clearly the inability of drivers to communicate. It's just mental that they have experienced this issue for so long and haven't been able to solve it. Ferrari's on-track strategy just didn't make much sense. A lot of the time, the 2 drivers were on different strategies throughout the race. Sainz started on softs and Leclerc started on mediums, pretty quickly caught up to his teammate, but despite being on different strategies, he was not allowed through then near the end of the 2nd stint. Leclerc's lengthy final stint on a worn-out pair of hard tires made it easy for George Russell, who was driving on brand-new medium tires, to overtake Scholl and benefit from the Ferrari driver's post-race 5-second penalty. In the 2nd stint, Leclerc made an effort to let his team know that he wanted the car switched as he approached Sainz, but due to radio issues, his message asking to be offset in terms of strategy was lost in the gearbox. Leclerc was responding to Xavier Padros, Leclerc's race engineer, when he said, "We are discussing it at the end." This understandably irked Leclerc, who retorted, "What do you mean at the end?" before Xavier responded, "We're on it." But you can understand his annoyance. When asked what went wrong for Ferrari after the race, team principal Fred Weiser responded quickly that they would fix the issues. But Ferrari has been claiming for a year that we'll need time to understand what we did right and wrong because the format was different and it's difficult to analyze the perfect weekend. You need to gather all the data in order to be able to do a reliable engineering on this explanation for sure, but I believe on our side it's much more tense. I'm going to be really honest with you. We make way too many mistakes. Toto Wolff will undoubtedly make the same good attempt to divert attention away from Fred if you ask him the same question. But Mercedes does not now face the same issues as Ferrari, and Toto is likely satisfied with how their Grand Prix turned out. Prior to the Belgian Grand Prix, Ferrari was 4th in the Constructors' Championship, 17 points behind Aston Martin. Leclerc, Sainz and Russell raced closely for the majority of the race, but the Spaniard in particular slowed down towards the end of the race and was easily passed by Russell. It is obvious that the current state of the race is not where we want it to be. This is not the first race that Ferrari has failed to switch the drivers quickly enough or outright refused, suggesting that they were afraid of upsetting either of their drivers this season. Do you know what Ferrari is going to do? One of Mercedes' senior executives has been taken by Ferrari as part of the restructuring Fred is doing. Performance director for Maranello Mercedes Leclerc. Sarah has a long history with Formula One, having started his career there as a tire engineer with a focus on suspension and vehicle dynamics. After Michelin announced his departure from the sport at the end of 2006, Sarah moved to BMW Sauber as head of vehicle performance before moving to Mercedes in 2010. Since then, he's risen through the ranks, becoming head of vehicle dynamics in 2013, and then being promoted to Perfo. Ferrari will be hoping that he can help their squad by bringing the knowledge and abilities that helped Merc be so successful in the 2010s. The Charles Leclerc response after the recent Grand Prix pushed the Ferrari team to do better in terms of operational quality and the overall management. The Ferrari team considered it, and it seems that the engineering management is going to be upheld by other senior executives of Mercedes. Do you think that it will be proved best for Charles Leclerc and he can do best in the next upcoming Grand Prix? Share your views in the comments and subscribe to the channel to watch what's even juicier coming next in F1.